There are 65 million empty homes in China right now. That is enough to house all of France, twice. And these are not crumbling old ruins. They are brand new towers with working elevators, finished roads with functioning street lamps, entire cities built from nothing, and almost nobody lives in them. China poured trillions into these places and watched them go quiet. The world's second largest economy built ghost cities at a scale no country has ever tried. And here is what nobody tells you. The bill for all of that is coming due right now, while your family waits on remittances, while your peso is trying to hold its value. Stay until number 1. That city should concern every Filipino more than any other. Because what happened there is not an accident. It is a signal. Number 10. Changzhou Science and Education City. Changzhou Science and Education City in Jiangsu Province was supposed to be China's Silicon Valley, and it quietly became one of its most expensive miscalculations. Construction started in the early 2000s, paid for with local government bonds and developer loans that officials swore would pay for themselves. The promise was simple: bring in 150,000 students, researchers, and tech workers, build a hub. Universities come first, then the companies follow, then the jobs. Changzhou would stop being just a factory town and become a knowledge economy powerhouse. That was the pitch. Walk through Changzhou Science and Education City today, and you will find wide, spotless boulevards with almost no traffic. Finished buildings, empty floors. Some university campuses were built but never fully enrolled. Occupancy in commercial zones is reportedly below 30%. Residential towers sit unsold while local developers struggle to pay back debt that was never matched by real demand. Here is the thing. Changzhou's debt model is the exact same model China is pushing on the Philippines through Belt and Road. Borrow to build, hope demand appears. When it does not, the debt does not disappear. That pressure travels all the way to trade partners, to peso-denominated exports, to your family's monthly budget. They built a city for 150,000 people. The silence that filled it instead. That is what borrowed money sounds like when there is nowhere left to go. The next city ran the same play, but the money behind it came from somewhere that makes this outcome look almost forgivable. Number 9. Dantu New District. Dantu New District in Zhengdong, Jiangsu was sold to the world as a world-class waterfront city, and it became a waterfront warning instead. Around 2010, the Zhenjiang city government launched Dantu New District with big promises and a specific funding method: land financing. Local governments sell land to developers, pocket the cash, and use it to build public infrastructure. Officials pledged parks, commercial centers, and housing for hundreds of thousands of new residents who would drive growth all along the Yangtze River corridor. Nobody asked what would happen if the residents never came. Dantu today is a patchwork of half-filled towers, shuttered shop fronts, and roads built for a city that does not exist yet. Satellite images show construction that just stops mid-project. Financing dried up and the cranes went quiet. Fewer than 20% of projected residents moved in. According to reports, several major developers tied to the district later fell into severe financial difficulty under the weight of their own debt. Think about the OFWs working construction and real estate jobs in China. They send money home every month based on steady work. When projects like Dantu stall mid-build, Filipino workers lose contracts fast. That ripple hits families in Bulacan, Cebu, and Davao waiting on that remittance. Every unfinished building in Dantu is a Filipino worker who packed his bags early, and a family back home that had to stretch the budget a little further. Dantu's situation, though, that is almost modest compared to what comes next. The next city did not just borrow a concept. It copied an entire country, and it still ended up empty. Number 8. Nanhui New City, Thames Town area. Nanhui New City near Shanghai includes Thames Town, a full replica of an English village that China built for prestige, and that nobody actually wants to call home. In the early 2000s, Shanghai launched Nanhui New City, also called Lingang, as part of a plan called One City, Nine Towns. Thames Town, one district inside the development, was designed by British architects to look like a traditional English market town. Cobblestones, a mock Tudor pub, a bronze statue of Winston Churchill. The government said it would pull in Shanghai's growing middle class like a magnet. Thames Town did get famous, just not for the reason anyone planned. It became a global symbol of emptiness, visited mainly by wedding photographers looking for a quirky backdrop. Shops closed. Apartments stayed vacant for years. The broader Nanhui area struggled to hit even 20% of its population targets. Some growth came eventually, but Thames Town itself still feels more like a film set than a neighborhood. China spent billions copying English culture while ignoring whether anyone wanted to live there. That same pattern shows up in its South China Sea moves, artificial islands built for strategic reach, not for people. They do not build for need. They build for image, and analysts say they apply that same approach in Philippine waters. A replica English village built with real debt, inside China, and every nation that trusted China's economic story ended up living inside the same illusion. What is coming next is not in China's wealthy east. Head far out to the dry, dusty west, where the scale of miscalculation gets far more serious. Number 7. Lanzhou New Area. Lanzhou New Area in Gansu Province was Beijing's great dream for Western China, and it turned into a half-empty monument sitting in the middle of nowhere. In 2012, Beijing gave Lanzhou New Area national-level status, one of only 5 in the country. That designation unlocked massive state funding and put it on the political priority list. The plan was to lift Gansu, one of China's poorest provinces, into the modern economy. Build logistics centers, factories, and roads. Connect the interior to Central Asia. Airports and industrial parks went up fast. Beijing was proud. By the late 2010s, Lanzhou New Area had a highway system designed for millions of people and a population of maybe a few tens of thousands. Industrial parks sat with empty lots. Tax incentives brought companies in on paper, but real operations were thin. Gansu is one of China's most financially fragile provinces, and analysts who track Chinese municipal finances have flagged the debt-to-GDP ratios tied to this project as deeply concerning. Gansu sits along the Belt and Road Corridor. The Chinese state banks financing underpopulated developments in Lanzhou are the same banks offering infrastructure loans to the Philippines. And here is what your government needs to understand. These lenders are not in a position of financial strength. Data suggests they are stretched across ghost cities and underperforming economies right at home. China offered to build roads in the Philippines, while its own roads in Gansu lead to nothing, and both carry the exact same debt attached to your country's name. The next city is not in a struggling province. It sits in one of China's richest regions, and it still went completely hollow. Number 6. Chenggong. Chenggong in Kunming, Yunnan was called the world's largest ghost city by international media. And for years, it earned that label without any argument. Kunming's government started building Chenggong in the early 2000s to ease overcrowding in the old city center. The target was 1 million residents in a clean, green, modern district. Government offices relocated there first to pull people in. Universities were set up. Billions in municipal bonds paid for apartment towers, shopping malls, and wide thoroughfares. On paper, it looked like a city with a future. By 2013, journalists and satellite analysts were documenting Chenggong as mile after mile of completed towers with almost nobody inside. Lights off, parking lots empty, grocery stores shuttered. At its most underpopulated point, occupancy was around 25%. Population grew later, but only because the government directed relocations. That debt does not shrink just because people were moved in by order. The city was built for demand that had to be manufactured. Yunnan borders Myanmar and sits on key trade routes into Southeast Asia, routes that touch Philippine trade corridors directly. When Yunnan carries this kind of financial burden, China's ability to project economic stability through the ASEAN region weakens. And a more financially pressured China creates greater uncertainty for Philippine exports and for Filipino workers across the region. They filled a million-person city through government directive, not human choice. That is not progress. That is central authority putting on a hard hat and calling itself development. What comes next tried to become China's Wall Street. The answer Wall Street sent back was silence. Number 5. Yujiapu Financial District. Yujiapu Financial District in Tianjin was built to be China's Manhattan, and it became something far more telling than that. Around 2008, Tianjin's municipal government and state-linked developers launched Yujiapu with one goal: rival New York City's financial district. Architects literally modeled the skyline on Manhattan. Skyscrapers were planned, funded, and partly constructed. State media promoted it as proof that China's financial sector had arrived on the world stage. Billions of yuan went into land reclamation and foundations before most people even heard the name Yujiapu. Construction slowed sharply after 2013. Cranes froze above incomplete floors. Buildings reached structural completion and then just stopped. Nobody fitted them out. Yujiapu became closely associated with Tianjin's serious debt challenges. Tianjin's government financing vehicles, the LGFVs, became a case study in municipal financial strain that economists still reference today. Total debt tied to the greater Tianjin area runs into hundreds of billions of yuan. When China's Tianjin-style debt challenges make international headlines, foreign capital moves cautiously. It tends to pull back from emerging Asian markets first, including the Philippines. Every time investor confidence in the region softens, the peso feels it. And Filipino families feel the peso. They built a skyline to show the world how powerful they were. The world saw the empty floors instead. And Filipino families ended up absorbing part of the cost. The next city is not on a coast. Deep in China's heartland, it was once called the fastest-growing new district on Earth. Wait until you hear what it became. Number 4. Zhengdong New District. Zhengdong New District in Changzhou, Henan was celebrated as a miracle of urban planning, until the miracle got exposed as a very expensive mirage. Zhengdong broke ground in 2001 on land carved from farmland east of Old Zhengzhou. Officials promised a futuristic central business district, circular lake at the center, massive government buildings, a commercial core serving 100 million people across central China. Time magazine named it one of the top 10 ghost cities on Earth by 2010. Here is the uncomfortable part. The city was still under construction when that ranking came out. Billions in local government bonds kept pouring in anyway. Zhengdong eventually attracted more residents than most cities on this list. But that growth was slow, forced, and bought at enormous debt cost. Commercial vacancy stayed persistently high through the 2010s. Then in 2022, Henan's rural banking system was rocked by a scandal that froze billions in ordinary citizens' deposits. People could not access their own money from the bank. That scandal pulled the curtain back on exactly how fragile this entire region's finances really are. Henan's 2022 banking crisis should be a serious signal for every Philippine bank with exposure to Chinese financial instruments. A deposit freeze inside China's interior does not stay contained. It moves through supply chains, trade finance, and OFW-dependent remittance corridors, and lands on Philippine shores faster than anyone expects. Zhengdong learned to look alive from the outside. But when ordinary Chinese citizens could not withdraw their own savings in 2022, the world saw what the numbers had been hiding underneath. What comes next is older, larger, and its shortfall cost more than money. It costs something that can never be returned. Number 3. Caofeidian. Caofeidian in Hebei province was a $100 billion eco-city built on reclaimed sea, and analysts say it damaged a living wetland ecosystem before the project quietly faded into silence. Around 2003, China began filling in tidal flats along Bohai Bay to build Caofeidian from scratch. The pitch was remarkable. A zero-carbon eco-city on reclaimed land anchored by steel, petrochemicals, and port logistics. The central government called it a model for sustainable development. Swedish firms joined as Green City partners. State banks and industrial enterprises pushed in billions. For a moment, the world watched and took notes. By 2013, the eco-city component had stalled significantly. Streets built for tens of thousands of people stood largely empty. The steel and petrochemical industries either underperformed or moved elsewhere. The Swedish Green City partnership quietly wound down with no announcement. Tidal wetlands that supported migratory birds for centuries were gone, permanently altered. The port zone nearby operates today, but the city built beside it remains a monument to ambition without the residents to justify it. Urban development losses alone are estimated in the tens of billions of dollars. China presents itself to the Philippines as an environmental partner and a responsible lender. Caofeidian shows what happens when that framing meets reality. A coastal ecosystem was permanently altered for a project that did not reach its goals. Analysts say Chinese dredging activity in the South China Sea follows a similar pattern of building before assessing environmental cost. They altered a living sea permanently for a city nobody came to. And environmental researchers warn the same approach is being applied to Philippine waters, with the same disregard for what is lost forever. Everything on this list so far has been building toward the next entry. This is the one that should make every Filipino stop and pay attention, because it has not stalled yet. And that is exactly what makes it the most serious. Number 2. Ordos Kangbashi. Ordos Kangbashi in Inner Mongolia became the most documented ghost city on Earth. Built on coal revenue that faded and left behind a city too enormous for its own shadow. Inner Mongolia's coal boom in the early 2000s made Ordos one of China's wealthiest cities per person. Local officials, flush with coal cash, launched Kangbashi in 2004 as a brand new administrative and cultural center. The target was 1 million residents within a decade. Museums, government plazas, and a massive Genghis Khan square went up at remarkable speed. State media ran stories calling Kangbashi the proof that China's interior could match anything on the coast. By 2010, international journalists had turned Kangbashi into a global case study. Satellite images told the story: wide boulevards, finished towers, government plazas, and almost no cars, no people, no commerce. At its most underpopulated, the population was somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 people in a city designed for 1 million. Then coal prices declined. Developer debt accumulated. Ordos entered a prolonged period of financial strain. Some residents moved in later, but the population stayed a fraction of the promise. And the cost of attracting even that fraction put serious pressure on the city's finances. Kangbashi was built on commodity revenue that everyone assumed would hold. According to analysts, China is applying a similar logic in the South China Sea, using resource extraction in disputed Philippine waters to underwrite strategic infrastructure. When commodity income declines, the debt remains. The Philippines could find itself connected to that financial exposure. 1 million people were supposed to call Kangbashi home. Instead, the debt arrived first, and according to reports, it has not left. Kangbashi is not even the most serious one on this list. Number 1 has not stalled yet. That is the part that every Filipino investor and policymaker needs to understand. Number 1, Xiong'an New Area. Xiong'an New Area in Hebei Province is the centerpiece of China's national development vision, and analysts warn it is quietly trending toward becoming the most expensive underperforming city project in human history. Xi Jinping announced Xiong'an in April 2017 himself. He called it a Millennium Plan, a project of national significance that would define China's next 100 years. The idea was to build a world-class smart city from zero, pulling population and government functions out of an overcrowded Beijing. State media compared it to Shenzhen, the city that remade China in the 1980s. Planned investment estimates range from $580 billion to over $1 trillion. No urban project in history has carried a price tag close to that. By 2023 and into 2024, reporters, academics, and financial analysts who visited Xiong'an described the same scene: gleaming roads, finished government buildings running subway lines, and almost no people. Businesses that relocated did so under government direction, not market logic. Residents assigned to the area describe an eerie quiet that construction cannot resolve. Meanwhile, China's real estate sector is under serious strain, with Evergrande bankrupt, Country Garden in default, and total property sector debt reported past $300 billion. Voluntary migration to Xiong'an remains minimal. The city runs on directive, not on organic demand. Xiong'an is the clearest signal that China's economic model is under serious structural pressure. A government that directs a trillion-dollar city into existence and still cannot attract residents voluntarily is one managing a deeper challenge than official statements acknowledge. The Philippines has been invited to borrow from this same government for infrastructure. Ask yourself honestly, if China cannot fill its own flagship trillion-dollar project, what does that tell you about the financial health of the partner offering your country those loans? When a government cannot fill a city it built with $1 trillion, it is not building the future. It is building a monument to its own economic narrative and quietly asking your family to help service the debt behind it. 10 cities, 10 trillion peso lessons written in concrete, silence, and unpaid debt. What they reveal, together, is that China's growth story carries serious warning signs that experts around the world can no longer ignore. It was debt wearing the costume of destiny, and right now that costume is coming off. The financial strain building inside China does not stay inside China's borders. Your remittances, your peso, your family's savings, they are all connected to the stability of an economy that analysts say is weakening from the inside. If this video changed the way you see China, share it with one Filipino family today. Because what happens inside China does not stay inside China. And your family deserves to know the truth.